Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Path of the Prophets. Today we are in Old Cairo at the Sultan Hassan Masjid and Madrasa. And it's from the Mamluk era, from the 1300s, and it's quite beautiful, but it's definitely unfinished. It wasn't able to be completed. The Sultan, he was assassinated before it was finished, I believe. And basically he brought architects and designers from all around the world to work on this. His intention was to have it be the most beautiful building that had ever been built. And so that was his intention, and he wasn't able to fulfill it. And it was an extraordinary, it was a huge tax burden upon the people because somebody had to pay for it. And this is interesting that you see throughout a lot of ancient history up until modern history across the world. You know, we could think about pharaonic times where, the pharaohs, they would burden the people tremendously, like with work and taxation and for these huge monuments. And we look at it now and we say, oh, these are beautiful and all, but the amount of suffering that fueled their construction, and we can see this all across the world, so it's just something to consider, like that. It's interesting that the pharaohs were actually parasitical. They were parasites, and the people who follow them and follow their sunnah are parasites. And notice even the symbols of the pharaohs, dung beetles, so that feed on feces and death and decay, the vultures that eat dead carrion, like dead carrion, decaying things, and then the cobras. And what do the cobras do? They they toxify and swallow their prey whole. So anyway, it's something to just think about. Like, something else that's interesting about this place is that the four Sunni madhabs have schools located here. So you've got the Shafi'i, we've got the Maliki, we've got the Hanbali, and we've and the Hanafi. So the four schools are located here. It's designed in a cross pattern. It's kind of interesting, and the archways are gigantic. It would be amazing if it was cleaned up and restored a bit. I mean, it's already beautiful as is, but it would be interesting to see that. But anyway, it's definitely worth visiting, and to contemplate what went into building this, and what was the real cost? What was the real human cost of such construction? We have to consider this. Now, the thing is, this is human heritage, and this is Islamic heritage, and this is Cairean heritage and Egyptian heritage. So we have to consider all these heritages and show respect to the lineages and all the excellences that were preserved, because each building is a book or a library, so to speak, and contains tremendous information about mathematics, geometry, various arts and sciences and crafts. So I don't intend to make it sound like I'm just taking a shot at the negative that came out of it. I don't want to focus on the negative, because there's a lot of positive and beauty here and excellence and real humanity here, and excellence of Islamic architectural design. Although it's interesting, because I think that like, even before I read that he had brought architects and designers from all around the world, I could see elements that seemed to me to suggest that there were non-Islamic architects involved in some of the design work. I won't go into that now, but it seems that way. I'll have to look more into it. But when architects from different religions work on buildings, they often incorporate their own motifs and designs into it. And sometimes they do things in a subversive manner. Sometimes they do it because You know, like a lot of the elites belong to the same ancient brotherhoods and have for a long, long time. And so they use a lot of the same symbology, occultic symbology. And this is something that the average person, we're not supposed to be aware of or even notice. But remember, the Quran tells us to read the outer signs and to read the inner signs. So we should be the most excellent readers of reality in the whole world. In the Musaf of the Quran, it acts as it's a mirror where we can see our heart, and it helps us to then study the outer and the inner. But you know, we have to be symbol literate nowadays to some extent. However, if we're going to study the symbols of the occult, we have to be wary, because some of these things, they have an energetic resonance that can be a problem for us. So when we're studying, we should always stay firmly rooted in purity and ethical excellence in all that we do. And it's important to have a mindful Salah practice, to practice Som that extends beyond the food and the drink, and that we practice ethics and purity in all that we do, and that we find ways of renewing ourselves when we're studying things that could potentially go into the shadow realms. So anyway, I just wanted to talk a little bit about this. I do appreciate that all the four madhabs are brought together into one location. And we need to consider that while diversity is certainly a mercy and very important and has preserved much of value within our tradition, we need to consider ways that we might bring the Ummah together as one and rise as one Ummah. And this is interesting to consider. So what are some ways that we can reconcile differences between the madhabs and come together? I would argue, I'll discuss this in another video soon, inshallah, but what I would suggest is that we should always go to, the prayer is the point that we can start unifying the Ummah. From my perspective, I think that we should begin organize a toolkit, a prayer toolkit, taking several, like looking for the commonalities, everything that's held in common between the four madhabs, and have a toolkit for each step of the prayer, maybe 3 to 5 different options available, and that we could work with. And this would be excellent for reverts. It would be excellent for people, Muslims who have left the prayer to the side and are now wanting to come back into prayer. For those who want to focus on unifying the Ummah and utilizing the Salah as a means of unification, this would be a way to push egos aside and bring people together from the various madhabs into one prayer line. And you know, so anyway, this is something to consider. And there are many different possibilities with this also. So we could meet each other halfway, you know, like, and this would be a way potentially through Salah to reharmonize and unify and heal old rifts, even with like with the Shia and the Sunni, and find a way to heal the rifts. I know some of you might not like the idea of even talking about that, but if we are to be a deen of peace, then we need to manifest, we need to manifest peace and justice in all we do. And remember, our justice must have mercy embedded within it and threaded through it. We need to be wise and compassionate in how we approach everything. And we need to come together as one unified Ummah. This is possible, but it will take an egoless approach and serious collaboration. And if we believe that we are people of community and consensus, then let's show and prove. Let's really prove it. Let's demonstrate it, because it hasn't been demonstrated thus far. People are very, very sectarian right now within the Ummah, and many of the people who are most vocal about sectarianism are the biggest sectarians. Matter of fact, probably some of the biggest sectarians in the entire world. When you look at it, is really a sign of someone who's not sectarian is they are going to see commonality. They are going to harmonize with others. They're going to connect with others. They're not going to repel people and push people away. They're not going to disrespect other humans and other Muslims. They're not going to call them dirty names. They're not going to curse them with their tongues or their hearts. So we need to come together. First off, so we need to make sure there should be no cursing with the tongue and the heart within the Ummah, period. That needs to be eradicated. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim needs to be what we always come back to. That needs to be our mantra. That needs to be our dhikr. And that needs to be our path and our goal. And and the prayer. We need to find ways to harmonize based on the prayer so we can pray together. So anyway, this is something to think about. Please consider this. I would love to hear your ideas, your thoughts on this. We can harmonize, we can unify, we can rectify ourselves individually and collectively through Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because He is the unifier, He is the harmonizer, He is the purifier, He is the healer. We need to heal our brokenness and be whole. So consider this. And let's find a way, and let's stop waiting for somebody to come and fix it for us. Allah will not change us until we change what is in our hearts. So we need to begin changing what is in our hearts, with even the conceptualization that we can be made whole, and we can't live in fantasy land anymore and think about people think in terms of ideals and don't think of practical realities. But we need to take steps toward unity and not just have it be words. So until next time, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.